Okay, welcome everybody for to this our first series of oral presentations for the day. This is one of the two parallel sessions running at the moment, so we're in Zoom Room 2 at the moment. And I'm delighted that we've got two presentations today. The first from a group of colleagues at Adelaide University, and secondly from Regent College London. Each of these will be a 20-minute slot. With 15 minutes of presentation and then 5 minutes of Q&A at the end of each one. Do post your questions in the chat as we're going through, and then we'll coordinate those at the end. As we go through, if you're not speaking, do keep your mics off, please. Just helps us avoid any background noise and kind of manage bandwidth. If you've got any technical problems, David's in the room with us to help. And on that, then I will hand over to Chokri and colleagues from Adelaide University to introduce themselves, introduce their session, and then lead us into their presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Hello, everyone. Good evening from Adelaide, Australia. I'm pleased to have my colleagues here from Adelaide University. It is a very newly born university, 6 months old, but it is like 150 years old. So it is. Our university is a production of the merger between the University of Adelaide and the University of South Australia. So we have our colleagues here from this community. I'm pleased to have my colleague Amanda and Abdul Latif. I think others will be joining. I'm Shokri Abdullah. I am program lead at Adelaide University Online in the area of engineering and IT. I think I would leave it to Amanda and Abdul Latif to present themselves.
Thank you, Shokri. Yes, I'm Amanda Janssen. I'm a lecturer for academic integrity in the Academic Quality and Integrity portfolio at Adelaide University. Before this, I was with the University of South Australia, where Shokri, myself, and Abdul Latif work together. Over to you, Abdul Latif, if you're in the room.
Yep, thank you so much, Amanda. So I'm Abdul Latif Lassina Diaby. I'm a lecturer and an online course facilitator at Adelaide University. So we are still trying to get around the name. So pardon us if we get it wrong. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I work within the associate degree program and do research work around academic integrity as well. So Amanda and Shukri have been partners over the years that we've been working with. It's great to be here and to present some insight from our research.
Thanks, both. So can you see my screen?
No, thanks.
Perfect.
Yep, excellent. So our project is, it's like a 3 years old project now since 2023, and it is around the impact of AI on higher education, or the title was Mitigating the Risk of AI on Higher Education. So why we selected this title, or why did we decide to go beyond the technical? Because we noticed that the discourse and all the debate, maybe immediately after the release of ChatGPT in November 2022, was around the technicalities and how can we handle these technical issues. But our team believed that it is beyond technicality. It's something more than that. That's why we had this project, and it was a study conducted 18 months after the ChatGPT release. So it was started in 2023. Actually, it was conducted 2 months after the ChatGPT release, but the outcome was after 18 months. And the goal of the study was enhancing the academic integrity, improving the teaching methodology, and somehow update the course content, or give some insights to the academics on how to update or become more ready for this challenge of generative AI. We also, the final outcome of the project was a learning or training module for the university academics on how to handle with all these challenges related to generative AI or artificial intelligence in general. The approach we took for this project was a bit different because we noticed from the literature that the research was mainly focusing on silo related to a single stakeholders, maybe some studies around students, others around academics. A group of studies were around the industry and the lifelong learning. That's why we decided to have it from a comprehensive 360 degrees perspective. We intended to have all stakeholders involved and their voice is welcomed. So we had the students, the educators, academic integrity officers, or what we call them, the one who are dealing with integrity cases, and the employers or the industry. We disseminated or tried to have it fractaled, like from the early stages or the basics, like simplifying the learning process and see who are the stakeholders involved and how are they interacting. So we invited around 1,014 students from 7 academic units, which are equivalent to 7 colleges, both on campus and online. And we had obviously around 80 academic staff from these colleges, both on campus and online. We invited 19 academic integrity officers from these units, both online and on campus, and 49 employers from 12 industries and advisory boards from some of these colleges. The methodology was mainly around, sorry, I skipped the slide. So it was around approach of mixed research method, like including surveys, focus group discussions, and interviews. And the timeline was, as I said, from March 2023 and still ongoing. We started with the data collection and literature review in 2023. By the end of 2023, we conducted the first industry advisory group interview. And in May, July 2024, we had the student survey. Then we had the educators survey, the academic integrity officer surveys in July 24, and we ended with the industry survey in September 2024. And then we moved up for the production of the academic training module since 2024 until maybe mid-2025. The whole project was around a conceptual framework, and the working model is about the integration among those 4 stakeholders. So I will leave it to Amanda to explain more on this one.
Thank you. So what we had to do in the beginning was actually find out what we wanted to find out. I could give you a long history, but we know we don't have time about how we had to come to this. We were looking at the intersects of what we were seeing with the concern with artificial intelligence in higher education. And we realized it was the teaching and learning. People were absolutely unsure of how they could continue or how they could link students with the learning to continue learning. We had a project, Authentic Assessment. We were looking at how we could make sure that the assessments we were doing continue to be authentic so that the students would learn from them. We also, of course, looked at the ethics and work values that were intersecting, and we have graduate quality skills. So the 4 industry partners, and I just want to clarify AIOs, it's possibly a very Australian thing. We have academic integrity officers who investigate misconduct in the units. They are aligned, they are also academics, but they do the investigation. They're not they do not teach the course, but they investigate where issues come. So their perspective was really important because they knew what was coming through and what issues were coming. So they had the exposure to the misconduct cases being brought through, and they knew the AI tools. So they were working with that. And they also needed to tell us about the assessment security, where we could do things better. From our educators, we were looking at the integration of writing tools with them and how we could design assessments that were possibly secure to help them with, and I'm going back to lifelong learning because this is a skill we wanted people to continue with. our students, we needed to know what they were thinking, and we asked them what their benefits and the perceptions of the artificial intelligence was on their learning now, but what it would mean for them in the future and how we could support them to become students who knew what they were doing, not now, but forever. And of course, I think where we do have quite a unique voice here is our industry partners who were providing us with a lot of information on the industry practices, what they were concerned about, and what qualities they wanted students. And I am going to hand back over to Abdul Latif to tell us about the next area. Abdul Latif, you're muted.
Here we go. All right. Can you hear me now? Yep. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All
Yeah.
right. Thank you. Yes. So I'll talk you through some of the insights we got it from the survey we had with key stakeholders, as Amanda has highlighted already. So in this particular instance, the industry partners that we spoke to, 45% of them argue that AI tools can be a decision-making tools in industry, but then they also see critical thinking among potential employees, in this case, our students, as the most crucial non-technical skills that is needed to augment these tools. So the insight here is that as higher education institutions, we must ensure that our students don't lose the core fundamental skills when adopting new digital tools for learning. So we clearly see that while industry is ready to deploy these AI tools, they also require evaluative critics who can adequately audit and also validate AI outputs. So basically, that's what we see here, and it's very, very important that we discuss the issues around literature that highlights the cognitive offloading dominance that we are seeing currently. That if our students continuously outsource the core diagnostic and analytical thinking that are required in their learning to these AI tools, then obviously what we'll be seeing is that their long-term professional skills would be impacted significantly. So that is basically the insight we draw from the data from our industry partners. Shukri, if you go to the next slide for me. All right. So with regards to the assurance of learning, we took insight from the survey of the academic integrity officers, and I think Amanda had already explained who these people are. So these are people who have been given the task to investigate misconduct in the university, and they are also academic staff, so they teach as well. Now, what we've noticed is that 88% of these support redesign of assessment over surveillance of students to kind of determine misconduct. They really think that the best approach to this issue of misconduct that we've seen since the emergence of ChatGPT is around redesign assessment rather than going into policing of students' work and bringing up things that are sometimes not so easy to authenticate in terms of evidence. So the insight here is that if those who are mandated to investigate academic integrity are calling for better teaching, then definitely we must begin to think about authentic learning generally as people or as educators. And also we're seeing that here about 90% of them are actively investigating misconduct cases, but then only 21% of them feel confident in their ability to even investigate these cases to reach an outcome that they themselves are sure about. So there is a gap in confidence. And this really brings back the point of thinking about a strategy that would rather focus on learning more than policing. So that is actually something that we were able to gather from them. And of course, we are also seeing from the student perspective, students themselves have complained relentlessly about the mixed messaging that they are getting from university generally around how to go around this ethically. And educators themselves are also beginning to be more cautious, and they are also uncertain around how to even investigate this too. So it's very important that we think about this in a way that we can find a common ground that would be very supportive to both students and also educators. So I'll give this back to Shukri to continue.
Thanks, Olive. I'm aware we have like a few minutes. The remaining of this presentation is around the goal. So the outcome or the main conclusion we got from those four stakeholders that there are four key aspects needs to be considered, which is in relation to teaching and learning, scaling educator capacity, and that was a huge gap or a kind of a missing piece of this chain, and also the authentic assessment as highlighted by the academic integrity officer. There should be more focus on what are we assessing and what kind of skills are targeted here. From the industry perspective, it was about professional ethics, and that was the main focus they highlighted, both the industry and the potential employers who are the students. And graduate readiness was a major concern from the industry perspective because they believe that the institution or the university are not ready yet to handle this challenge. We adopted this kind of approach in relation to ethical consideration in AI development, and we tried to implement it somehow through those four lenses. So in relation to integrating AI ethically through the teaching and learning process and the curriculum enhancement, and also for authentic assessment, we need to prioritize the assurance of learning more than actually testing or assessing the recall skills for the students. In terms of professional ethics, it is about instilling the core of integrity as part of the learning process, and assure this is mainly taught through all courses and the whole degree, and cultivating the critical thinking, adaptability, and the students' capacity on how to evaluate this kind of AI products. So the final outcome was 4 or 6 steps or 6 stages. It is about redesigning assessment as a first priority, establishing ethical guidelines for both the process of learning and teaching, and building the foundational knowledge which are critical for the students to understand what's AI, what's the use of AI, how can they interact with this, and promote critical thinking on how to evaluate AI outcome and make sure it is somehow consistent, and collaborating with the industry on how this should be implemented. And finally, as the closing piece of the cycle is encouraging lifelong learning. So 3 main phases. Ethical foundation is the most prior and urgent one, pedagogical innovation, and workforce alignment with the industry partners. So it is discipline-specific guidance, assessment readiness, and program level mapping. Those are the main 3 findings we got out of from this kind of interaction with those 4 stakeholders. Finally, I will close with Amanda. It is about our shared future through the assurance of learning.
Yes, thank you. So what we're trying to do, and I think a lot of the papers, especially out of Australia by Danny Liu and Alan Bridgman, are talking about how we can make sure we have points of learning throughout our degrees and make sure students have got points where they are showing their learning. Something that we took away was in one of a newspaper report, they spoke about in the beginning of artificial intelligence, the industry were talking about wanting students who could understand the technology and use it. Now they are saying they don't want students necessarily who understand, because that's something they can learn. They want students who have an inherent integrity and ethics in their doing. So looking at how we can make sure along the journey we are assuring our learning, instead of just looking at how we can detect students doing the wrong thing or using artificial intelligence incorrectly. Back to you, Shokri.
And just a little
Finally,
reminder that we're at time. So just, yeah, grateful for you wrapping up. Thank you, Chokri.
yeah, so the few findings we had that we need to maintain the integration of the ethical use of AI. It is not about preventing or fighting against it. It has to be somehow integrated within our learning process and make sure that it is a strategic resilience within the institution, the policy, everything is around that. It's not about prevention or a kind of protection. It is the other way around. The final outcome was this academic training module for our university staff is about integrating generative AI effectively in higher education. It was including all the outcomes of this study. Thank you so much, and back to you, Rachel.
Thank you so much. What a fantastic presentation. Really, there's so much to take away from that. So thank you. And I can see already that we've got a couple of questions in the chat. So yeah, lovely round of applause there. Thank you to all. I'm conscious that we have got another speaker tabled in now, Dr. Inga Olari from Regent College London. So I will need to keep us moving on to Inga's presentation, but then hopefully we'll have a few minutes at the end so that we can cover both sets of questions. But just to be fair to all speakers, Inga, would you like to come in, please, and share your presentation? And as you're pulling that up, a thanks again to our colleagues from Adelaide University. And that hopefully we can you can also exchange contact details or provide contact details so that people can you can take your questions into conversations afterwards. Thank you. And when you're ready, Inga, you can move straight into your presentation if you want to go into presenter mode.
I think I already shared my screen. Do you see it all?
Thank you. We can see your screen. If you want to click into, we can see all of your slides though. So if you want to pop into presenter mode.
Okay.
So just the sort of screen next to the Zoom at the next to the Zoom function in the bottom right-hand corner. David, I don't know if you want to provide any guidance there as well.
Is
Yeah,
right?
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for offering me this opportunity to present my topic. Today I will discuss how artificial intelligence and digital platforms are reshaping lifelong learning in higher education, both in the UK and globally. So my focus is on understanding not only the opportunities these technologies create, but also the risks they introduce for equality, ethics, and institutional leadership. So higher education is no longer a one-time experience. It is increasingly becoming a lifelong and continuous process. This shift is being driven by artificial intelligence, digital learning platforms, and changes in labor market demands. Universities are now expected to support learners throughout different stages of life and career development. This transformation matters because learning needs are changing rapidly. Many employees require reskilling and upskilling due to automation and technological change. As a result, universities must adapt to remain relevant. However, while digital innovation creates opportunities, it also raises an important question. Are we improving education or unintentionally reinforcing inequality? AI can improve access, flexibility, and personal learning. However, it also creates challenges. This includes unequal access to technology, ethical concerns, data privacy risks, and questions around assessment integrity. Therefore, technology alone doesn't automatically create fairness or inclusion in higher education. At the center of this discussion is a clear tension. On one side, AI offers flexibility, access, and personalization. On the other side, it can increase inequality, bias, and digital surveillance. This shows that innovation must be balanced with responsibility and ethical governance. This leads to my central research question: does AI truly democratize education? In other words, does it make education more equal and accessible, or does it create new barriers for certain learners? So this question guided the whole study. To explore this issue, I used three theoretical perspectives, such as human capital theory, which links education to employability; digital pedagogy, which focuses on how technology changes teaching and learning; third, critical theory, which helps examine inequality, power, and fairness in education systems. One important idea is that artificial intelligence is not neutral. Its outcomes depends on how universities use it, the values they prioritize, and wherever all learners have equal access. This means governance and leadership play a major role in shaping positive outcomes. AI has improved personalized learning through adaptive systems, real-time feedback, and stronger student engagement. However, there are risks. Too much dependence on algorithms may reduce critical thinking and learner independence. So while personalization is valuable, it should not replace active intellectual judgment. Digital platforms have extended access to flexible learning. They support micro-credentials, online study, and career-based education. This is valuable for lifelong learning who may combine study with work or family commitments. However, there is also a risk of fragmented knowledge and weaker academic communities if learning becomes too transactional. Technology has made education more global. Learners from different countries and non-traditional backgrounds can now access courses and professional development opportunities. However, global access doesn't always mean equal access. The digital divide still affects many learners due to economic, social, and technological barriers. Alongside opportunities, AI introduces, of course, ethical concerns. These include algorithms, bias, privacy issues, surveillance, and academic integrity challenges. In higher education, these risks require strong governance and ethical decision-making to ensure that innovation supports fairness rather than harm. As for methodology, this research used a qualitative secondary research approach. I reviewed academic literature, policy reports, and institutional strategies to understand how artificial intelligence and digital platforms influence lifelong learning. This allowed me to examine both opportunities and risks across higher education contexts. The analysis focused on four key themes such as personalization, access, employability, and ethics. These themes helped identify where AI creates value and where concerns remain. Together, they formed the basis for interpreting the broader impact of digital transformation on lifelong learning. The findings show that AI supports flexibility, accessibility, and stronger alignment with workforce needs. However, it also raises concerns about inequality, ethical risks, and unequal participation. So this confirms that digital innovation brings both progress and responsibility. One major benefit is flexible learning. Students can now learn anytime from different locations and often while working. So this increases participation in lifelong learning and makes education more adaptable to modern life and professional development. AI can improve accessibility through tutoring tools, instant feedback in translation systems, and captions. These features can support learners with different educational, linguistic, or accessibility needs. When used well, AI can make learning more inclusive and responsive. Employability alignment. So artificial intelligence and digital platforms also strengthen employability. Skills-based learning, micro-credentials, and closer links to labor market helps universities prepare learners for professional change. However, education should still remain broader than employability alone. Despite many benefits, AI also creates inequality risks. So the digital divide, data bias, and unequal participation remain major concerns. Not all learners have the same access to devices, digital skills, or institutional support. This highlights an important message. Access doesn't always mean equality. Excuse me. 1 second, please. AI also challenges traditional assessment. Tools such as generative AI raise concerns around originality, academic integrity, and how learning is measured. Universities may need to redesign assessment methods to focus more on critical thinking, reflection, and authentic learning rather than simple knowledge reproduction. A key insight from this research is that AI is transforming universities into lifelong learning providers. Institutions are becoming more flexible, digital, and skills-focused. However, there is a risk that education becomes reduced only to employability and technical skills, rather than broader intellectual growth. The real issue is not simply whether artificial intelligence can improve education. A more important question, who benefits from AI in education? If access, supports, and governance are unequal, then some learners may gain far more advantages than others. So, what are the implications for the universities? So these findings have important implications for universities. Institutions need stronger ethical governance, digital inclusion, AI literacy, and new assessment models. Leadership must ensure that innovation supports fairness, accessibility, and long-term educational quality. And my key leadership message is that artificial intelligence should augment, not replace, human judgment. Technology can support learning, but academic values, critical thinking, and human decision making must remain central in higher education. And in conclusion, I would like to say that artificial intelligence expands opportunity and can improve access, flexibility, and employability. However, it can also reinforce inequality and ethical concerns. The outcome depends not on technology itself, but on governance, institutional values, and how universities choose to implement it. And in the end, I would like to leave you with one final thought. Technology transforms systems, but values shape outcomes. This reminds us that innovation alone is not enough. Educational leadership and ethics will determine whether artificial intelligence creates progress or deeper inequality. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. I hope it answered the question that I addressed and researched within this presentation. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. That was extremely thorough, and I can see really already some really interesting questions coming through in the chat. Let's move straight into those questions, and I'd like to invite a question for Inga, and then later a question for the group from Adelaide, please. So, Huda, as you were the first to put the question in the chat, I don't know if you'd like to come in and share your question with Inga, or I can read that out loud.
Yeah, so we are all aware that the use of AI has implications on the climate, on natural resources, on water in specific, and the adverse consequences of this usually fall on already vulnerable communities already. So that is an inequality in of itself. So I was just wondering if you addressed this in your research or if you're interested in looking through this more.
Great question. Thank you. Inga, would you like to respond?
Oh, this is a question for me. Oh, sorry for not reacting immediately. So actually, I was just working on researching about the outcome of the lifelong learning process that is going on recently in the higher education institutions in UK and globally. And I was mostly interested in how the artificial intelligence shape the learning process. But unfortunately, I didn't think about deepen my research about the aspects that you mentioned above. Maybe later I can expand my research about this as well. But at the moment, I was just, working on how AI shapes this process, and wherever it is only a positively influencing on the educational process, or it's actually more a neutral phenomenon that influences on the education.
Great, thank you. And I think it highlights then a real opportunity for that research question to be answered or to be explored in many ways. Thank you. I wondered if we might take a question for Shakri and the team there at Adelaide. I know we had some great questions in the chat. Isabella, I don't know whether you want to come in with yours since you were the first person to post one there, if you're still with us. No problem. Great. We could perhaps move to Huda's question again there, which was so for the group from Adelaide, how do you suggest we build a strong ethical foundation that you mentioned within your presentation?
Sorry.
Sort of was for the Adelaide. Sorry, Olga and Inga, over to you now. I was just going to answer
please,
for Adelaide.
Sorry, please.
Do you want to go ahead, Amanda?
So from the Adelaide University perspective, something that we have brought in, and it's very brand new, so we can't tell you how it is going to pan out. We've brought in an not an ethics course, but a course called An Ethically Rich Life that we are hoping all our students will undertake. And if we look at how it has gone this semester, it's worked incredibly well. It's about deepening the ethical views of students and making them understand what it means to act ethically in a global world. And artificial intelligence is one of the topics that they cover. And the other common core that they have is on artificial intelligence. And once again, in the ethical way of doing it. So we've got these two common cores that all students are expected to do that, but that's for the students. And for our academic staff, we do offer ethics training, which is mandatory for staff, or integrity training. We have also our academic integrity unit and our integrity unit for the university. So we do take it exceptionally seriously. Shakri, Abdulatif, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, probably I'll just add that from the academic integrity perspective, we trying to conscientize students to understand that the work of learning, getting involved in research and doing the work itself, can never be outsourced. All right. When you do that, you're not learning. You might get something coming back, but what really builds your professional capability or capacity to go out there and be who you are and wear that badge proudly, having worked on the stage to get your degree, is something that would be impacted greatly. So I think gradually with what Amanda is saying with the course that, so these are common core, Amanda, right? That are being run across the university for everybody, and hopefully through that we can build ethical citizens that would shape the world in the future. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Some really valuable insights and such a clear message there that you're sharing with your students. Thank you. Well, we've come to the end of time for our session here. So just remains to thank sincerely all of our presentations today, all of our presenters today, sorry. Really, really appreciate all the time, all the thought, all the care that you've put into it. Really insightful. And thank you to the for the questions as well to all of our delegates in the room. We have a short transition break now, and so 5 minutes transition break. And then, as David has just put in the chat, the next session will begin in 5 minutes. So that's 11:45 BST in Zoom room 1, and that is for our Thunderbolts and Lightning talks. So some quick moments of provocation in the next room. So see you back in Zoom room 1 in 5 minutes. And thank you again to our speakers.